In this orthokeratology case, we have a patient who's got some glare and halos at nighttime, and then some residual cylinder power in the other eye. In the right eye, we're at about -50, -50 in the post-spray refraction, so pretty close. What I would do is max out the optic zone for both eyes, so we can probably push this one out to about 7. Right now we're at 7 here, so I'm going to push this out to 7.6. And this one to 7. Power dropped a little bit, so we're going to have to bump that. And let's aim for about 150 since we were a little bit undercorrected. We do have to, in 25% mode, check the meridians because our power is way off here. So just go through and touch up each meridian. I'm going to pause the video while I do that. The next thing we'll do is adjust the sagittal depth of the lens to see if we can mold out a little bit of that residual cylinder. So let's aim for about 15 microns since we're trying to get rid of width rule. What we're going to do is flatten the lens horizontally and then steepen it or increase sagittal depth vertically. Freeform, so we'll do 25% mode. Right now we're at 1013. So our new target here will be 1006. And I think we're there. We do the same thing on this side. 1029, so we'll be at 1022. Okay, so we have a reduction in 7 there. We're going to have an increase in 8 in the vertical meridian. 104, can't tell what that is. I think it's 104.8, so we'll be at 105.6. Done. And then 1062 to 1070. So this will give us a little bit more molding in the vertical meridian to see if we can reduce the residual cylinder. And the last thing we can do is add some shake factor to increase the size of the treatment zone. So I usually start with plus 20. What we want to do is keep an eye on our demand here, 675. You'll see that changed, and the power is going to be off because we've got an aspheric optic zone now. So we'll go by the demand. We want to go back to where we were before. So in 100% mode here, we're going to decrease our power or decrease our topo demand. We just changed the power of the lens, so again, you'll have to go around and equalize everything. We're minus 218, so we see there's quite a bit of variability in here. We just want to go through and even these out. So now I've got my powers pretty uniform, but our demand is off again. So it'll be a little bit of a back and forth where you want to get demand back power is pretty even going all the way around. So now we have a lens, the power is pretty uniform, pretty close to -2 all the way around. We got our original demand of 675. And you can see that with a flatter central area, we've pushed the optic zone back a little bit, and this will probably help a little bit with halos. I don't think it'll get rid of the halos completely. It's a higher minus patient, pretty steep corneas, but whatever we can do to help, I think, should get us some better success on this eye. One note about adding shape factor, positive shape factor, it flattens the center, so you want to watch out for any central staining that's real persistent after the patient's worn the lens overnight. Here on the left eye, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to push the OZ in this case out to 6.8, so we'll be at 6.8 and 7.4. Adjust the powers. I'm going to aim for a final power of 1 since we were a little bit overcorrected in this eye. And that process is exactly what we did on the other lens, so I'm just going to pause the video until we get to that point. So here's a lens, slightly larger optic zone, drop the power to about a +1. Next thing I'm going to do is add the shape factor, and we want to maintain our demand of about 7. So here we have a lens with shape factor now. Demand is still where it was right before we added this step, and you can see the optic zone or the treatment zone should be a little bit more broad this way. In this eye, we're starting with a lot more cylinder, and we got about half of it with the original lens, which is pretty much what we expect or predict. But because there is a fair amount, and if you look at the axial map, it's distributed quite broadly. I think to really get rid of all of it, we'll have to go to an oval optic zone. So what we're going to do is 6, 8, 7, 4. We're going to, in the vertical meridian, reduce this, and we're going to drop it down by 0.6 millimeters. So in 50% mode, the 6.8 is going to go down to 6.2. And the 7.4 down to a 6.8. We do the same thing down here. And then in terms of total demand or power, we want a differential of about 2 diopters, I would say. So here, if we're at 246, we're going to want the power here to be about 46. So we're going to increase this. And you can see in the graphic now the optic zone is oval. This does kind of counteract some of the increase in size of the treatment zone, but if we need to correct the refractive error, then we don't have too much of a choice. Keep an eye on the post-wear refraction. If the patient is still overcorrected in 100% mode, it's not difficult to just back off on a demand, and that helps increase the size of the treatment zone as well. So pretty complex lenses that this patient is going to be using now, but hopefully that gets the post-wear vision to be a little bit better and helps with the halos too. So best of luck with your patient.